We continue right here on Mad Dog Sports Radio Weekend Edition. Jake has been with you until 8 p.m. Eastern, and there are so many different things going on right now in the NFL to talk about. The Senior Bowl, the NFL hiring cycle, and oh yeah, 1 week from tomorrow, Super Bowl Sunday in Vegas. And joining me right now is the former GM of both the Jets and the Dolphins, and you watch him on ESPN all the time as an ESPN NFL analyst, Mike Tannenbaum joins the show. Mike, always appreciate your time. First time here on Mad Dog Sports Radio, so thanks for making a couple minutes for me today.
Great to be with you, Jake. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Mike. So I know you were out at the Senior Bowl, right? So I want to start there. Give me some takeaways from some of the prospects you got a chance to see up close.
Yeah, the quarterbacks were really interesting. Michael Penix, although he decided not to play in the game today, which is interesting. Bo Nix looked great. Carter Bradley, University of South Alabama, who is Gus Bradley's son, longtime NFL coach, currently the defense coordinator of the Colts, was there. I thought he looked good. So quarterbacks were good. Jeremiah Corley from Western Kentucky stood out to me. I mean, there's countless others, so however you want to hit it up, but it was a good week. Juniors were there for the first time, so really good week. Great job by Jim Nagy, executive director.
So getting into the quarterbacks, because it seems like every year the Senior Bowl is kind of like the unofficial start of the hype around a lot of these QBs. In your opinion, Mike, looking at some of these guys and maybe even some of the quarterbacks who were not at the Senior Bowl, how many quarterbacks do you expect to go in the first round when it's all said and done?
I'd say, five. You got the big three with Drake May, Caleb Williams, right, and Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix. Maybe Michael Penix sneaks in, so maybe six.
Wow. So six in the first round. And does that present opportunities for a lot of trade ups? Because it does feel like in a lot of the mocks we've seen so far, quarterbacks go maybe 1, 2, and 3. And then there's a debate on who that fourth, fifth quarterback is in the first round.
Right, right. I like JJ McCarthy, but I like Bo Nix. He had a really good week, and then, like I said, Michael Penix has a tremendous arm. So I'd say we'll see six, and like you said, we could see some trade ups as well.
Mike Tannenbaum is my guest here on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Jake Asman with you till 8 Eastern, former GM of the Jets and the Dolphins, and you watch him on ESPN all the time. Mike, when you look at the hiring cycle now in the NFL, Dan Quinn was hired just the other day, so all 8 vacancies that were open have been filled. What to you was the biggest surprise hiring that we saw during this cycle?
I'd say Dave Canales. A year ago he was a somewhat obscure quarterback coach of the Seahawks. Had one good year with Baker Mayfield, and look, he may turn out to be great, but that one really surprised me.
When it comes to surprises, I'm sure you were surprised that Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, and Mike Vrabel all did not get jobs during this cycle.
I was. I mean, that's some firepower there. Bill Belichick's coached for 49 consecutive years in the NFL. That is really stunning.
Mike, how much about Bill Belichick's age and the lack of success 3 of the last 4 years since Tom Brady left contributed to some of these owners maybe not wanting to hire a guy who's won 6 Super Bowls?
Yeah, I don't really know why, Jake, but like if I owned a team and I could get somebody that had, you know, been to what, 9 Super Bowls, won six, whatever, and has coached for 49 consecutive years, I'd want to talk to him. I think his wisdom can enrich a program beyond, X's and O's.
Do you think he coaches again?
I do. I'd be surprised if he didn't. I really do.
What type of team would bring in a Bill Belichick, and does it have to be a team that will let him also have control over the personnel?
Yeah, I think it'll be the NFC East. I could see Philly, Dallas, or the Giants hiring him. And you would have to ask Coach Belichick about personnel, but well, he's going to go down as the greatest coach of all time. Hard to think that he won't have a chance to break the record a year from now.
Mike Tannenbaum is our guest here on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Mike, 5 of the 8 vacancies in the NFL filled by defensive-minded guys. Is that a coincidence? Or are we starting to see a shift back towards defensive guys when it felt like for a while, if you weren't an offensive-minded head coach, you were going to have a tough time getting a gig?
Yeah, good question. I think that's a really good question. I think D'Amico Ryan's having success has something to do with it, Jake. From a standpoint of he had success with a first-year coordinator, first-year quarterback, obviously, in C.J. Stroud. So I think it's about getting the right person and putting packages together with who the play caller would be. So maybe it should be a little bit more down the middle than it's been.
I have to ask you about two of the former teams that you worked for. I'll start with the Jets, Mike, because The Athletic earlier this week, they dropped a story where they spoke with 30 sources behind the scenes, and it basically covered the unmitigated disaster that was the Jets' 2023 season. One, what did you make of an article like that? And two, when you look at this Jets future with Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, do you think Woody Johnson is making a mistake, ultimately retaining the two people in charge of the organization?
I don't know. It's about that. I just wouldn't put all my eggs in Aaron Rodgers' basket. I said the day after he got hurt, Jake, they need to have depth at that position. We saw the Browns go to the playoffs with four different quarterbacks. I think that's job number one, two, and three. So I know everyone thinks they should draft a tackle, but Aaron Rodgers is gonna be 41 years old. I don't know. I would make sure I'd have a lot of insurance at that position.
Is that something they could do in free agency by signing a qualified backup and then, drafting someone in the middle rounds? Or would you be willing to potentially use that 10th pick, no matter what the circumstances are, ahead of free agency and then finally at the draft and just take the quarterback you believe in there?
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of optionality there because they do have more than one to hold, Jake. So you could go tackle then quarterback, you go quarterback to tackle. But if I'm the Jets, dealing the addressing the offensive line and getting depth at the quarterback position is hugely consequential.
I'm curious in your experience, Mike, because obviously when a story like that comes out that speaks to 30 anonymous sources, and in the story it reads that Robert Saleh was paranoid with where these leaks are coming from, you've been in that media market. You know what it's like to be running the Jets specifically. What do you make of Saleh apparently being paranoid? What do you make of all these sources, these leaks? I mean, how would you handle that if you were Joe Douglas?
Yeah, yeah, it's times 10, Jake. It's times 10. When things are great, it's times 10. Look, I led a pep rally in Times Square on top of the world. It was awesome. 6 months later, I'm on the back page of the Post like I should be fired. And when it's great, it's really great. When it's bad, it's really bad. And you just need to know that, Jake. I know it's easier said than done, but when you do, like when you're working for one of the New York teams, you just gotta embrace it.
Does winning just cure all, Mike? Is that really what it comes down to for the Jets and
Yeah.
Robert Saleh?
Coach Parcells, great line, Jake. Winning is a great deodorant in pro football. It covers up everything else that stinks.
Well said. Mike Tannenbaum is my guest. Jake Asman here, Mad Dog Sports Radio till 8 Eastern, former GM of the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins, and now you watch them on ESPN. Mike, how about your other team, the Dolphins? A lot of talk about what they're going to do this offseason. Tua Tagovailoa made some comments the other day about how he expects to get a contract worked out with Miami. Your thoughts on Tua and his future with the Dolphins?
Yeah, he's earned it. 66 different quarterbacks started this year. He played in all 17, and that was a big question he had to answer. He had injuries at the University of Alabama, had injuries with the Miami Dolphins, but he played well this year. He played all 17 games. You got to give him credit. And now you got to figure out, responsible contract for him.
How difficult is it to find that quote unquote responsible contract number when it feels like the player has a lot of leverage? Because what would the Dolphins do at quarterback if they didn't have Tua? While at the same time, if you pay him like he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, how significant is that towards limiting what you could do around him?
Yep, it sure does. But look, when you have a productive quarterback, that's job number one, two, and three. So it's, not ideal from a cap standpoint, but it's a good problem to have generally.
A similar question about Dak Prescott. A lot of talk about him and the Cowboys working out a deal. How would you approach that if you were Jerry Jones?
Oh, you got to get a deal done. I mean, he was like in the MVP candidate, Jake, conversation, and he's a tremendous quarterback. He didn't play well against the Packers, but their defense didn't play well. The kicker missed a kick. No one had a good day that day. But I'm hard pressed to think you're going to find a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. So give him a big sign bonus, prorate it out, lower the cap number.
Mike Tannenbaum is our guest. Mike, we'll wrap up with some questions about the Super Bowl 1 week from tomorrow. Give me your thoughts on the matchup. I'm still trying to figure out personally why the Kansas City Chiefs are slight underdogs after what they've already done this postseason.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think, outside of running back and, maybe two receivers, they're decidedly better on defense, quarterback, offensive line. I like Kansas City pretty handily in this game.
You, of course, went up against Tom Brady a lot when you were with the Jets and the Dolphins. A lot of talk this week is going to be about Patrick Mahomes and if he's on his way to potentially being the greatest of all time. What are your thoughts on that conversation, and just what are your thoughts on what Mahomes has been able to do? Only 28 years old and potentially looking at his third Super Bowl already.
Yeah, he's on his way to being one of the greatest of all time. It's really remarkable, and he has a chance to meaningfully, compete for, Tom Brady's record if he would win, a week from tomorrow.
How about Brock Purdy? Is he getting too much hate? What are your thoughts when you watch him?
Yeah, he's played really well. The leading QBR, 31 touchdown passes. If he wins the Super Bowl, he should get a lot more credit than he's getting right now.
Mike, give me a score. I know you're going to be asked a lot this week. Who do you got? I know you
Thir-
like the Chiefs, but give me a score here.
31-21.
Wow, I think that was the score the last time they played too. By the way,
Oh, all right, there we go.
there you go. Mike Tannenbaum has been my guest. Mike, always appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you so much for taking some time here on a Saturday, and enjoy what I'm sure is going to be a hyped up week of Taylor Swift talk and much more.
All right, Jake, thank you.